Hey guys, so today I just watched a video on YouTube called Shit Apple Fanatics Say Part 1, and it's a pretty funny video. And they're talking about, that trashing what Apple guys is saying. And I know this video is a joke and it's a very funny video. You should go ahead and watch it. I'll try to leave a link to it in the description. But I mean, there's some things in this video that they say Apple guys say that I feel that, some things, yeah, Apple guys do say that. Some things in this video I also say, but that's just because I truly believe in those things and they are actually true, coming from a PC user's perspective, now using a Mac or using two Macs in my life. So this video is going to be called The Problem with Windows Fanboys. And don't take this video too personal, too personal. I know not everyone is like this. That's why I said Windows fanboys, those real hardcore fanboys. And I know there are fanboys on both sides. There are Apple fanboys, there are Windows fanboys, there are Samsung fanboys, there are Apple fanboys. There are all these kinds of fanboys. But today I want to list three things I think Windows fanboys should try to learn about Macs. So number one problem I see on YouTube when people discuss Windows versus Mac or PC versus Mac or whatever, the number one problem I see with Windows fanboys is that they never tried a Mac. Okay, they never tried a Mac, and I don't talk about trying a Mac for 5 minutes or trying a Mac for one day at a friend. I'm talking about like trying really to use a Mac in your life for at least like a month and see if it's something for you, because that was something that I realized and discovered when I got the Galaxy Note. In the beginning I was like, the fuck is this? But after a week I got used to it and it was amazing. Same with the Galaxy S2. When I got one of my first Android smartphones, the Galaxy S2, one of my first, it wasn't the first, but when I got that phone, in the beginning I was like, wow, that's a massive screen. How should I hand this back? I really had that kind of perspective and I really did see things like that in the beginning. But then I got used to it, and then I thought it was amazing, and then I went to that even bigger 5.3-inch boy from 4.3, and I got used to it, So that's something that I see as a problem with many people that trash Macs. They never used a Mac, okay? They've never used a Mac. Wait a sec here. I'm gonna read here, write in some notes here. And also, I think that it seems like Mac users, I think most of the Mac users out there, they're coming from a side where they've used PC for a long time and then they have been going to Mac, okay? So that's something that I see that Mac users have an advantage, that they have been seeing both sides, okay? So they are a little bit more educated on that side. And I know there are probably Windows fanboys that have used Mac and said it was horrible and stuff like that, but that's the number thing problem here I see with a lot of people that's trashing Mac. And now the number two, one of the big things I seem to that's a big problem with Windows fanboys is they only talk about the specs. When you go to YouTube, you go to Windows versus Mac or whatever, you go down and scroll down, you can see that the only thing people talk about is the specs, especially the Windows fanboys. They write, the CPU, Core i7, 16 gigabytes RAM, I can get this for this price, and the Mac costs this much more. Now, the problem with these guys is that they only look at the specs. They don't look at the whole experience. Rarely they put in let's say they compare an iMac versus a PC. Usually they only list the specs and the processor it's going to have, the RAM it's going to have, and the hardware it's going to have, but they rarely list what kind of screen it's going to have, because they don't think about that. But you have to think about that when you're comparing a PC with a Mac, because with a Mac you get this wonderful IPS display with an amazing resolution. You also get a built-in webcam. So also when you just compare the specs, you have to consider these things, that if you only listen to specs and you only take up the internal parts of the PC, you also have to list, especially if you compare it to an iMac, you also have to list like an IPS screen, or at least the same kind of resolution on the screen. You also have to list a webcam that you get with the Mac, which is amazing. People even think that it's like a real camera. People think, and I say, oh man, it's just my webcam on my iMac. And some things that they don't even consider, they're like the build quality on the material. Build quality on the Macs is amazing. They use an amazing material, feels extremely exclusive. Also, I can tell you one thing, when I had problems with my hard drive on my Mac, they switched it in one day, okay? Apple did send the hard drive the next day, so they were extremely quick to change that, and I could pick up my MacBook Pro the next day. So it only took one day, so I have that security. So it's the overall experience, like the trackpad, that you actually can zoom in if you buy the trackpad. That's something that I think is one of the major things with Macs. Like, you can zoom in, and it's more like it's more interactive, and it's amazing. Also, the scrolling wheel feels very old school after you use the magic. When you use the magic mouse, because it's more natural to just use your fingers, just as you're using with your Android smartphone or whatever using. It's more natural, and then have the scrolling wheel that we've had for like 30 years now. So the whole experience, this is something that I'm pretty sure it's very hard to understand if you never used the Mac more than 5 minutes, about what the whole experience really are. And also, I think that one of the problems here is that, when we look at YouTube, you never see, what kind of people, these Windows fanboys. I think most of them are hardcore gamers, like 12 to 14-year-old kids. And then I can see a problem with that. And then also number 3, the third thing, I think this could be one of the biggest problems with Windows fanboys, is that they get too caught up on the price. Okay, they get too caught up on the price. So I'm pretty sure most people can't afford not even the entry level of like a fresh iMac from 2012 or something. I think many people can't, or they feel that that's extremely expensive, and then they kind of get offended because they see this PC in a store, and they see that they goes for, you can buy cheap one, you can buy mid-range one, and then they see they can't even afford the low entry Mac, and then I think people get very offended by that. I think people get very offended because it's about money, and people are very sensitive when you talk about money. So many people are very sensitive. They are probably about the price, so they rationalize in their head why Macs are bad, okay? And I think that's one of the very big thing there. And also, one very funny thing is that I think that if everyone would be able to, if you took money away, if you can either pick a very high level Mac or a high level PC, I think many people actually would pick Macs, okay? Many people would buy Macs. But now I think most people rationalize in their head why Macs are bad just because they can't even afford the entry-level Mac. And as I said, I think price is something that's very sensitive, because, it's just a sensitive thing. And also, I want to say one thing with this video: don't take it extremely serious, because I think it's just fun to do random videos sometimes. And as this video ship out of Fanatics say, I think it's an extremely fun video. And also remember, I'm not a hardcore Apple fanboy. I love Apple computers when I do my work, because I think they're awesome for video editing. And if I would do music editing, stuff like that, I will also use a Mac, because they have these amazing programs. Like, I'm using Final Cut Pro when I'm doing video editing, stuff like that. It works, video editing works. And trust me, I'm coming from a side where I've been using Windows PCs for years, okay? So also, if you never used a Mac, remember, like, if you have been using PC for years, you gotta at least give Mac, more than 5 minutes of your life. Like, try to use it. If you call yourself a Windows fan, but try to use Mac for at least like a month. And I know it probably is kind of hard for you if you don't have the cash to buy Mac, but please don't talk like you know everything if you never even used a Mac, and don't try to only talk about the specs. Remember, there is a whole experience. There's more than just the specs, okay? There is so much more. And as I said, I'm not a hardcore fanboy of Apple. I love their computers, but I'm not that a big fan of their smartphones. That's why I go with Android and Samsung. I love Samsung when we talk about portable stuff. I love Android when we talk about portable stuff. I like Samsung, I like Asus, and I like Apple computers. And I have Logitech speakers, and I have all these kinds of companies around me. I have the HAL PR40, which is coming from HAL. Does that mean I'm a HAL fanboy? No. So yeah, quick fun video here. Leave a like or leave a dislike, and then we can have some fun in the comments. Yeah, peace out. And I also may make some more videos about these shit Apple fanatics say. And I mean, some things I may want to talk more about, so I may make some video responses to these videos because I think they're funny as hell. And they can create some pretty interesting discussions, you know, about things Apple say or Apple guys say, but still, you know, I think that's you know, it's fun. So yeah, what do you think of this video? Leave a like or dislike, and I will see you all hopefully in the next video. Yes, peace out.